discussing the credit default swaps that we should be paid in gold. It seemed to intimate that they were on the United States itself. I wonder if you could tell me what would happen if such swaps were actually in existence and were exercised by, a change in credit rating for the United States or a state like California or a state like New Jersey. What would happen?
Well, does the writer have the gold? I mean, there's nothing particularly wrong with being short a credit instrument, okay, or any other derivative. There's nothing particularly bad about doing that. I do it, okay. I'll short a call or short a put or for that matter, short a futures contract. Okay, I do it all the time. I trade these things every day. I don't trade CDS, but I trade regulated instruments constantly. All right. I mean, sometimes I hold them for an hour, sometimes I hold them for 5 minutes, sometimes I hold them for 5 months. But here's the thing. I have to have the money to cover the bet, okay? So let's say that you bought a credit default swap on United States debt that was triggered by a downgrade of U.S. debt, all right? Now, remember, with a credit default swap, just like a raw put or a raw call, you don't have to actually own the debt in order to buy the credit default swap, all right? You can buy it just as a gambling device without actually using it as a hedge. And that credit default swap was on $10 million worth of debt, but it didn't settle in dollars because the whole reason you're doing this is you think that dollars might not be worth anything, right?
Right. Yeah.
So instead, we're going to take today's gold price, 1123.30, as I sit here talking, and we're going to say that if this thing triggers, I, the person who writes a swap, has to pay you 8,902 ounces of gold. Okay?
Right.
All right. Now, you pay me a premium for that, and today I don't know what America's CDS go for, but let's say it's 50 basis points. So you pay me 50 basis points on $10 million every year, and this contract runs for 5 years. And if at any time during that 5 years the triggering event happens, I have to give you this 8,902 ounces of gold. Now, let's say that America gets downgraded, right? And you come to me and you say, pay up. If I have 8,900 ounces of gold, there's no problem. I give you the gold, you go on your way. But what happens if I and every other bank in the United States has been writing these things like toilet paper?
That's what I'm asking.
And between us, well, now hold on a minute. And between us, we've committed to deliver more gold than exists in all of our vaults.
Right.
Okay? Now, it could be worse than that. What if we commit to deliver more gold than is freely available in all of COMEX? In other words, every good delivery bar plus more.
Well, what if the banks in the United States have written those swaps with one another, and it's more gold than they've got or COMEX has got?
Then they can't. Then the performance can't happen. But what happens when those things trigger is a huge dislocation, both in the metals market and in the U.S. currency. Probably enough to take down every one of the banks involved. It blows them all to hell, all at once. And there is not a thing you can do to stop it, because the person on the other side of that contract has every right to expect that he's going to get his 8,902 ounces. But there isn't enough gold to pay him. See, this is different. This is a little different than the circumstance where you're going to pay somebody money, all right? Because as long as your credit's still good, if you don't happen to have the cash laying around, you can borrow it. All right, AIG got in trouble because they had neither the cash nor the credit. All right, but if I am, say, J.P. Morgan, and I've got $1 trillion balance sheet sitting around behind me, as long as my credit doesn't get cut off, I could handle $100 billion or $200 billion worth of exposure in a cash credit default swap. I'd have to come up with it somehow, and it might be ruinously expensive, but I would likely survive that event. It would not be good, okay, but I would likely survive. The problem with delivery like this in a physical commodity is, if it's actually specified this way and the commodity physically doesn't exist, there's nothing you can do. What you would set off is a mad scramble for the underlying asset. And the ultimate response to this would probably be that gold would shoot the moon initially, but all of the banks involved would collapse, and very shortly thereafter, so would the currencies, the governments, and gold would basically be useful for casting into bullets as lead.
Discussing the credit default swaps